Welcome back to another episode of Epic Exchanges. This week, I get to welcome Jason Clawson to the podcast. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Awesome. My name is Jason. I grew up in Utah. I'm still living here. I have three kids now, and I'm a therapist by trade. I've been doing therapy with people in trauma and addiction and grief space, which I absolutely love. And I'm also grateful to be a dad that I get to be able to spend quality time with my kids and have fun and enjoy life. And that's what I get to do. And I'm super passionate about helping people and helping people find what makes them happy.
Awesome. Well, I know you have a pretty great story to share with our audience. So why don't you just jump in?
Awesome. So, where I like to start is 5 years ago, my wife got diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And imagine you're sitting at the hospital after we just had exploratory surgery, and the doctor comes in and just lays down this news that is just life changing and altering for everybody. And I remember the doctor coming back into the recovery room with my wife, sharing the news again, and the weight and the heaviness just hit home. And and I was like, I need to get some answers. So I ran after the doctor and I said, "What can I do? How am I going to get through this?" And the doctor looks at me and says, "Jason, you know what? Cancer has a way of enhancing your life. You're going to be okay." And she left and I was like, that's not fair. Like, I'm here to get some answers. So imagine me walking down the hallway, putting on this mask that I'm going to be the strong one, my mask of masculinity, and protect my feelings because someone's got to be the strong one. And I wore that mask for a period of time as I took care of my wife, my kids, and I was at work. And we were given about 2 to 3 years to manage cancer. And about 9 months, my wife passed away, and that was just life altering again. And I remember the support from the funeral was great, but then after the funeral, I remember waking up and there was nobody there to sit with me and feel these emotions. So I just had to kind of keep that mask on and try to get through life with my boys. And I could feel that they were struggling, but I was struggling too, and I didn't know what to do. Then I get a call to go back to work, and I thought maybe if I go back to work that will help, but it didn't. I would come home and my son looks at me and goes, "Dad, you come home angry every day." And I was like, I'm not hiding this. So I knew I had to do something. So what I did was I text 15 of my closest friends and family, and I said, "Come over to my house so I can share how things are going." So in my living room, we created this intervention, and I began to take off my mask and share how hard life had been. I was just crying and just finally sharing who I was. And what was amazing is they rallied around me and they gave them permission to be able to help me through this process. And I call it my healing team. So every time I get triggered, emotional, upset, I am able to send my code word to my captain. My captain will text people in my group, and they'll come and they'll do their responsibility. Like my parents would do my laundry, my neighbors would bring me food, and everybody would rally around me until I was feeling good again. And I felt like after that there was hope. So shortly after that, I ended up stepping away from therapy, and I sat on with my kids and I reconnected with my boys because they needed a dad. And it was one of the best decisions that I've ever made, but it was super hard. And the process, we made a bucket list of things to work on, and things that would bring us joy and happiness. And on there, probably the one thing that was the greatest thing that we've ever done, one of them, is we made, let's do a lemonade stand and let's give back and let's serve other people so we can get an emotional timeout from what we're experiencing. So we set up a lemonade stand, and we were said we're going to raise $100 to help people. by the time the lemonade stand was done, we raised $1,500, Kelly, and and we just started making these kits to help people, and we began delivering them to people that have had cancer, lost loved ones, or struggling emotionally, and it felt so good to feel something different than pain and sadness and depression, and it was so exciting to do. And I remember walking out that first appointment and saying, wow, I want to do this the rest of my life. But I didn't know what to do, so I just kind of threw it over to God and said, okay, if you need me, I'm willing to do this. And we've had some really small miracles on the along the process, that has helped us get to a point where we're creating these kits that when people are diagnosed with cancer, when they're going through grief, or when they're just struggling, we put together these kits that get delivered to people that can rally and help them through that process. So it's been such an amazing transformative experience to go from my life was good and then it fell apart with the diagnosis of cancer to where it is now, where I've been able to share my stories, be in rooms where people are struggling, offer support, and be able to help people through this process. I often say it's like a lemon to lemonade really life story of turning things in and being able to find joy again. And what I've learned is the opposite of grief is connection. The opposite of depression and sin and divorce is connection. And the more that we can connect with people, the more that we heal through the process. And I got to be able to help people and be able to say, you know what? Even though you have these life altering events, you can find joy again, and it's possible. Um, it's hard and it's exhausting and overwhelming, but it's possible. And that's what I get to do and be able to share that. That's what my boys get to do by just living life. That's what I've been remarried for 2 years from my wife that has also lost her husband to cancer, but that's what we get to do is give back and help people. And now we feel happy. We have moments of joy, and we're able to be in a place where we can give back so that others cannot have to suffer and live a better life.
That is so encouraging and inspiring. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you. I know that anybody listening is just like, there's hope. You can come out of the hard times. So, a few questions I'd love to have some conversation about.
Yeah.
And the first is, here you had this background as a therapist in grief and trauma and all of these things, and yet what kept coming to mind for me is I think the actual quote is like, physician, heal thyself, right? But in the midst of that, you weren't doing what you needed to do, how you helped other people. When did you make that connection, or did
That's
you?
that's a great question. I just remember going, I I know how to help people. I've been trained to help people, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't look in the mirror and help myself. I knew I had to bring people in to help me, and that was I mean, I had a couple of just kind of epiphanies through the process, but I had to slow things down and go, why isn't this working? And I was like, I can't therapize myself. I need to invite people in my life. So I can't think of any specific moments, but there's these epiphanies where I'm driving or I'm sitting on the couch and be like, Jason, you need help. You need to reach out.
And then you did reach out and you created, as you call it, your healing team.
Yeah.
A How amazing is it that you had 15 people that you could gather together that cared enough to circle the wagons, so to
Yeah.
speak,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to get involved. But B, you had to be incredibly vulnerable with them,
Mm.
and and know that you could trust them with that. That's hard for a lot of people.
Yeah.
What would you recommend for anybody else that's saying, oh, I think I need a healing team?
Yeah.
Or how do I, where do I start?
I think I tell people what I was experiencing my grief was harder and more overwhelming than it was to open up to people that loved and care about me. So when I felt that that was too much and too overwhelming versus opening up, I made the decision to just pour out my heart because I had nothing to lose other than emotions and pain. Like I can share that with people. But I tell people maybe people don't have that big of support, but let's start with one or two of your friends. Let's start to get some emotional momentum where we talk about things and we open up to a few people so that they can rally around you and you can slowly build your team by being vulnerable or being transparent about how things are going. Because as soon as I told my team, and keep in mind, I had family and friends that were waiting to help me, but they didn't know because, again, I was wearing a mask, a stoic mask, and they didn't know how to help me until I really told them how things were going. Then it gave them permission to come in and help me.
Yeah, I think that's key is that we all have people who care about us, but they're waiting for permission to reach
Yeah.
out.
Mhm.
And no matter who we are and whatever we're going through, if we continue to wear that mask of I'm okay, I got this. Whatever it
Yeah.
is, I'm good. No,
Yeah.
I don't need help. No, I don't need that. I remember one time I was going through a particularly difficult time and it was so tough that I couldn't even answer a question from a friend who was like, I'd like to give you dinner. Should I deliver it to your house or do you want to come over?
Mm.
I couldn't even make a choice and make a decision there. And that's when I realized, oh, I need to do something.
Yeah.
I'm frozen. So that first step of knowing who our trusted people are, who
Yeah.
we can be vulnerable with, or even just trying it out and seeing
Yeah.
what. Did you
Yeah.
have any unexpected responses, disappointing responses?
Um, if I'm gonna be honest, and that's how I live my life now, I think where I was frustrated and disappointed, where the people I thought were maybe closest to me or I could rely on, like I'll give examples, just either good friends or siblings, they didn't step up like I anticipated they would. So for me, that was frustrating because I thought they would respond better than they actually did. And that's okay because I had people that stepped up that I wasn't expecting. So I think that's what's important is finding those people that will stick in it and stay with you consistently and so that they can walk that path with you. Eventually, my family have or family and friends, they're in my life, but they really didn't know what to do for me. And that was hard for them and hard for me, but I'm okay now. I'm in a better spot.
Um, Yeah, I keep thinking about anybody who's going through something tough and we tell ourselves stories about all the people in our life and why they are showing up the way we think they will or not showing up the way they think they will or we think they will. And I keep reminding myself everyone has a different capacity. Some people can't deal with other people's pain and grief or
Yeah.
illness. And I guess giving grace for that and then embracing the people that can and that are
Yeah.
okay with sitting with us in our difficult times.
Yep.
So I'm glad you had that support. Tell me about your kits. What's in
Oh,
them? Do they change depending on who the recipient is? How do people
um,
get them? All of that.
so we designed the Hope Kit, and that's one to be able to help people in grief. So there's a comfort side where we have fuzzy socks and a blanket and chocolate chip cookies that give you the comfort side when you need that comfort. But then also we written children's book to help you understand grief and how to honor that person. And there's a keychain that you wear around. It connects you all to ties back into your loved one. And then we have a journal with a year's worth of journal prompts to help you progress, get some of those emotions gradually, not like here's some really hard emotional questions because people aren't ready. So there's momentum that you build through these process and talk about these emotions, and then lay it in the bottom of the boxes. These support cards, and I love these because, again, going back to nobody knows what to say or how they're going to show up. So we created this deck of support cards that you hand to your friends, and it tells you what to text and say to them, and you're saying the right things to get them to open up and talk. And these are things that have been I've used in therapy sessions, have been said to me in my grief, and then I interviewed over 300 widows that gave me these responses that were super impactful through their grief. So that's the grief box that just kind of takes over. You build a team and gives you what you need and helps you really get past that year anniversary of death. And then the other boxes are similar, where they have a journal, they have a children's book, they have comfort things in there, they have support cards for people that have been diagnosed with cancer. So there's a similarity between them, but they're specifically designed for cancer or mental health that walks them through that journey.
I think that's amazing. And I'd love if you wouldn't mind to talk about how your kids are involved now and what the changes that you've seen in them in terms of them being intentionally involved and being a part of it all.
I mean, whenever I get asked to maybe like do a service project or put some kits together, or someone says, I have a friend, can you go deliver that? I try to involve my kids as much as possible because they've been part of the journey, and them just being there and them just sharing what it's been like has been super helpful. So any chance I get them to deliver, I go with them. And then at the early stages of this, one of my boys was helping pack some of the boxes that get shipped out to people. So it became like a family process as we're in the early stage of the Hope Kit, but we're just doing it together. But it's like, it's almost like a calling, Kelly. It's like, we've went through this. And if I just went back to what I was doing, I think I'd be doing people a disservice. But we're here to give back and help people in that grief space, and I'm honored and happy to do that all day long. And my kids, to some degree, they like other stuff of being a kid, but when I ask them, they step up and they become involved.
And how old do they know?
My oldest is 16, and my youngest is 10 years old.
Okay. The reason I ask is because it sounds like this obviously the grieving and then the development of the kits and everything has been a great way to teach them compassion and empathy and giving back in a very transformative time of their lives as well, preparing them to be adults that are aware of others and others' needs. And I think that's a great skill to have
Yeah.
taught, given
I,
them.
I just remember saying, like, pausing and going, okay, I want to teach my kids how to be able to go through grief in a positive and healthy way. So it doesn't, so they're not 5, 10 years down the road and they're still dealing with that grief. But I just want to embrace it and model how to get through a tough moment, because you're going to get a tough moment. And if I can teach resilience and be able to have to lean into that discomfort, it's going to be great. And when they go through that hard time, they're going to go, oh, I remember when we did this. So this is what I need to do. So I just want to empower them to go through that and be able to come out on top each time.
Well, I think it's amazing. Thank you for doing that and for sharing the journey. Uh, if our listeners could only remember one thing from your journey and our discussion, what would you want that to be?
I always say, hold on. I need to plug something in.
Oh, okay.
I always leave with, if we're going to heal, we need to connect. That becomes the pivotal moment of helping people, whether it be my own journey where I reached out, or whether I've seen clients in therapy sessions where they finally feel safe to share. What helps them is involving other people in their life.
So true. My work in helping people share their stories to positively impact others is ultimately all about connection as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. How can people find out more?
People can email me if they want, if they've been touched and inspired, if they need support of their own to be able to create their healing journey. It's jason@hopekit.com. Our website is hopekit.com. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at hopekit.com. And I'm starting to become more and more involved with TikTok.
It's
being
on
able
my
to being able to speak and share how to help people through grief. I mean, it's a stretch, but people need it there, and that's why I'm challenging myself and being able to give back.
Wow, that's awesome. And we will share on in our show notes and on our social media, all your links so people can find you. One fun question just to wrap things up. If there were a book or a movie written about your story, what would it be called?
That's a great question. Uh, I want to give an awesome title. I I like Into the Storm,
Mm,
and if you know anything like buffaloes, they don't run from a storm. They actually face the storm head on, and they actually run through the storm. And if you run through the storm, actually the storm goes away quicker. So I would say Into the Storm, because I haven't shied away from this storm. I've just kind of put my head down and got and learned and grew through it. So Into the Storm. That's my movie right there.
I
You heard it
I
here
love that.
first.
Exactly. We can say you did say it here first when it comes out and it's up for the Oscar, right?
Yes, yes, we did.
Thank you so much for being here, Jason. This has been inspiring. I hope all of our listeners are really inspired and want to somehow do something positive as well and connect more.
Awesome. Thank you.